Good evening, everyone. Thank you for listening tonight. I really appreciate it. So, where did you go to high school? They're practically the first words, if you were born and raised in St. Louis, that you learn to speak well before you even enter a high school. If you were Gateway City born and bred, you barely hear the words. But for those who are transplants, words like odd and weird describe their first experience with that question. If it is a school we've never heard of and we're not sure what to do, the response will be a confused, oh. But it is really very simple. St. Louisans ask where you went to high school, to find out if you're a native St. Louisan, to find out what part of town you're from, and if they might know someone that you went to school with. One of the great things about St. Louis is that, of course, it is a large city, but in many instances, it has a small town feel. So let's talk about some of these points. Finding out if you are native to St. Louis is pretty innocent. Most big cities have good and bad parts of town. St. Louis is no different. Some who are critical may say that St. Louis is very racially segregated, and that question may tend to foster stereotypes. Of course, no one is going to say that that is okay, but in our case, it may be something just as harmless as we want to see if you pronounce Gravois and DePere like the locals do. A second reason for this question is finding out what part of town someone is from. For most people, even if they are from the toughest of neighborhoods, are proud of it. St. Louis has some of the most unique neighborhoods. If you went to Metro or Gateway High, you might live near the Hill. If you went to Sumner High, you might have grown up on the north side of St. Louis. Unfortunately, however, sometimes assumptions are made about people when they answer that question. If you live in St. Louis County, which is separate from the city, and you are male, and you say you went to DeSmet High, people might assume that you're Catholic and that you come from an affluent family. If you are a graduate of the aforementioned Sumner High, it might be assumed that you are middle or lower class, African American, and are from a pretty tough neighborhood in the vicinity. If you are a graduate of McClure or McClure North in North St. Louis County, both public schools, you are from a blue-collar working-class family. And of course, while you're on the topic of where you went to high school, comes the possibility that the person you are asking just may have gone to your school's arch rival. Nothing could be more true of these two schools. Just like the Cardinals and the Cubs, this arch rivalry lasts well into adulthood. While the reason for asking the question where you went to high school is an innocent one, people may get assumptions made about them based on their response. Another reason folks in St. Louis ask this question is they just want to find out if you might have gone to school with someone they know. While St. Louis is a large metropolitan area, in some instances, it has a small town feel to it. We've all heard the phrase, "It's a small world." That definitely rings true in St. Louis. It's not difficult to meet someone through college, work, kids' activities, etc., and realize that they went to school with someone you may be very close to, even your spouse. They might have even gone to the same school just years later. It is fun to see how that school has changed over the years through the eyes of someone who came after you. Unfortunately, ultimately, it is just kind of fun to ask people where they went to high school. We find out in a more detailed way if someone is from St. Louis, what part of town did they grow up in, and how did that shape who they are, and if they might know someone they do too. So these are the reasons we ask where you went to high school. To find out if you're a native St. Louisan, to find out what part of town they grew up in, and if they might have gone to school with someone we know. So if you're planning to move to St. Louis, be prepared. You will be asked this question, and be prepared for the befuddled stare that will follow, because we will have no idea what school you're talking about. Oh, sure, we can just ask all of those things, but it is what makes us unique. Thank you very much for listening.
Good job.